Hi, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Murder on the Polar Express.
What? No, it's the Orient Express. Nobody even died on the Polar Express.
You know what? But they wish they did, Mike. Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting imbibed and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Dave Pomerantz on Facebook for that synonym suggestion, imbibed.
And that's imbibed, I-M-B-I-B-E.
Oh, so he spelled it wrong.
D. Yes.
Shame on you, Dave Pomerantz.
At least when I Google it, because the I imbibed, the definition is to drink. Mm-hmm. And then in parentheses it says alcohol.
Must clarify.
So I feel like that's like as synonym as it gets, really.
And there's no word for EM?
Not that I know of. The example is they were imbibing far too many pitchers of beer. I feel like that's really...
That is a synonym for drunk. The more you know. Yeah. Vocabulary with how many fingers am I holding up?
Really, that's really one of the best synonyms that we've gotten, because I wasn't aware of that word.
Yeah, it's definitely
until
not one
now
you hear too often. But we are imbibing Voodoo Ranger IPA from New Belgium this week, and I actually did not bring out a bottle opener, so BRB.
What the heck, Mike?
A horrible guest host. I host guests, so I'm a guest host.
If you guys are watching via video, which
5 weeks in the future when I get my computer back and can edit videos.
Maybe you are? I don't know. Mike's had a problem with his... we haven't even really addressed this on the podcast, but Mike, you've had a problem with your motherboard of your PC. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So, I mean, I've always kind of had problems with my computer where it like has these weird hang-up freezes where it just freezes on whatever it's doing.
Because you built your own PC.
Yeah, so no blue screen, no like... The only way to get out of it is basically just to shut down. It's just a total hang-up, and it's really annoying if it's playing audio because it'll get stuck on a loop of the last audio sample that it's playing, so it'll sound like a transformer because it'll just be like... just nonstop the entire time.
Right.
Just spit everywhere while doing that impression of my computer, which is really annoying. So then at one point I was trying to fix that because it started happening like, it would happen like once a day, maybe go like 2 days without happening, and I could never recreate it. And then it started happening like 3 times in a day. And I was like, okay, it's getting worse. I can't deal with this. It was actually, I was trying to export Blade Runner or maybe another...
I think it was probably Blade Runner, maybe? I don't know.
Or maybe Lego. Might be Lego Ninjago. I was trying to export of one of our videos, and then it kept happening to the point where like I would set it to export, go do something, come back, and it would be frozen. Restart it, set it to export, come back, it'd be frozen. So I tried to like fix it, and I guess I made whatever was happening worse, or the computer just realized that something was worse. I couldn't get it to post after that, and then did this whole process of trying to figure out what was wrong, determined it was possibly the motherboard, so I RMA'd the motherboard. They sent me a new one after like a week or two, or a refurbished one rather, and that one was bad too, which was awful because it was like I got it working for a little bit, for like half an hour, and then it started doing the same thing again, like not being able to post after that. So Wednesday, my new one should come. Hopefully by the time you guys are watching this, well, clearly by the time you're watching this, it's been fixed because I'll have my computer back if you're watching this. But hopefully this is able to be posted on time, on schedule.
Yeah. So
been super annoying though, because I haven't been able to edit the videos or the teasers or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Fallen behind on a lot of work without my computer.
I don't know too much about our YouTube audience. Again, we do have all of these episodes up on YouTube. I encourage you to check it out. It's obviously a lesser.
This is real good, by the way.
It is. Yeah, I'll definitely talk about it. But but if you've been toughing it out on SoundCloud or really anywhere where you can find podcast, do stay tuned. Our YouTube episodes are coming back.
We'll resume, and the live episodes will be posted again on YouTube, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but let's talk about New Belgium's Voodoo Ranger IPA. It tastes right up the alley. I've never had this before. I've had some other Voodoo Ranger. We just recently
the pumpkin
had,
one we did. Atomic something, I feel like
Atomic
it was.
Pumpkin
Yeah.
is probably what it was. That actually gave me a really bad headache. I'm hoping we don't have a repeat because this is our first episode we're recording. We decided to start off with this. But it's literally right up the New Belgium. Like, if you've had Fat Tire, which is their most popular beer.
That was why I got it, because I loved that pumpkin one we had, and I do love Fat Tire. And I was like, all right, I'm 2 for 2 on New Belgium. Let me try something else.
This tastes, it has like that sweetness that New Tire, or Fat Tire.
They do a good job with
brand
like
new tire.
having like that piney taste in their IPA that I kind of like. I can kind of taste a little bit of like pine in like the back of it.
Yeah. Mostly, I just think it's an IPA with the sweetness of Fat Tire. And Fat Tire is that not an IPA? It tastes, it's something.
It's hoppy a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've had it. Voodoo Ranger gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah, no, I like it. I feel like I've had this before. I had to have, or it tastes very.
I have only seen it since I moved to PA. I don't know, where are they from?
I think I caught that fucking bug.
Asheville, North Carolina. So maybe they don't have distributors as much in New Jersey. You know, I mean, I see Fat Tire, but that's really it that I would see in New Jersey. Now that I'm PA, I see like a whole selection of Voodoo Ranger. I also feel like the beer selections are better in PA because there's
so
less
many breweries here,
then
too,
there's
yeah.
less places too. That's I've recently been introduced to PA's fucked up liquor laws.
We haven't even talked about this. Is our first time. This is our first episode. I thought I killed that bug, but I did not. This is our first episode that we're recording in
my new apartment. Yeah,
You've heard Justice League last week, but we still haven't recorded that.
2 weeks ago, I think Daddy's Home is before.
Oh, okay. So
because Daddy's Home, I mean, we'll talk to it, but Daddy's Home actually beat Murder on the Orient in
box office scores.
Fucking fly.
Yeah.
What was I about to say? PA liquor laws. Fucking.
They're strange, right?
Like I knew the part about like, or at least I had heard the part about like you can't sell beer and liquor in the same place.
Right.
And then I like in some counties I've been in PA. I mean, it's all counties, but I thought it was just specific to those counties where like you have to buy beer by like the 24 packs. And then I guess grocery stores have been able to get around that now.
Yeah.
Where they can sell 6 packs, but they can't sell more than 192 fluid ounces, which is basically 2 6-packs.
Yes.
Or a 12-pack. So I had picked up like a 12-pack of Busch and a 6-pack of this, actually, the Voodoo Ranger. And I bring it to the front, and the guy's like, oh, I can't sell you this. I'm like, okay, what do I do? And he's like, well, you buy the 12-pack, you should go back to your car, and then you should come back, and this will be waiting for you, and you should make a separate purchase for that.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, it's so stupid, because it's like, I could just buy them both there. I understand they don't want it. Just the law is stupid. Like, because they're, even at these stores, they're encouraging people to go around it. They want to sell as much as possible, and they're like, yeah, buy this, go to your car, come back. It's a separate purchase. It's not stopping anybody from buying too much alcohol. It's just being a minor inconvenience.
And is that because that's within a grocery store?
I think that's the only reason grocery stores are allowed to sell it. Because he said
because
the only
they can
other
sell less than, okay.
And I was like, where do I buy more? And he was like, you'd have to go to like a distributor. He's like, I don't even know where those are, to be honest.
Right, because that's the whole thing is...
that's where you get like the 24s or 30s.
Because I'll go to a beer store, and I mean, I'll get 2 or 3 12-packs or something.
At a distributor? Or?
Just at, I don't know, it's just a beer store.
I think they're distributors.
Oh, okay, a distributor then. Yeah. I've never tried to buy... I guess more than, but I've seen somebody have trouble who tried to buy at a local grocery store that was trying to buy like a 12-pack and a bottle of wine. And they were like,
it's too much, yeah.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, the guy that I was purchasing from was new to the state too, and he's like, yeah, it's messed up. Like, just go to your car and then come back and buy the other one. Like,
it's also
someone else might have just been like, I can't sell you, period. The other one, they wouldn't recognize that as a separate purchase, me going to my car and then coming back.
I'm not too up on the Pennsylvania laws either. It's funny having this kind of podcast, and we're both new to Pennsylvania, and our podcast revolves around liquor. But I feel like wine is very, very new to
Pennsylvania,
to grocery stores.
I do see wine where beer is sold,
yes,
like in grocery stores.
Like,
so
at
they
first
must
they were
be able to circumvent that somehow, maybe because of the percentage. Or
yeah, because at first it was just.
I'm sure they argued like, oh, there's like 11% beer, so I can sell my 13%, wine or whatever wine.
Yeah,
is.
because at first grocery stores. I mean, I have 4 different ones around me. It was like Weiss, Wegmans, Acme, all these different grocery stores. And at first they were all just making these brand new beer sections, and that was it. It was just beer. And then like,
so that itself is probably a new development too. Grocery stores being able to do it.
And then all of a sudden, like, they take out like half the beer and start placing wine in there. So it's interesting to see like the
this whole episode's just gonna be us
swatting and a fly. Yeah. But yeah, let's get more into the movie than PA liquor laws, as I'm sure our audience. Our audience isn't even really in PA.
Yeah, I don't know where they're really very spread out.
We have,
look at our stats.
Our biggest.
New Jersey definitely has the biggest.
No, there's 2 different. It's one town. I mean, if we're going by towns, which the SoundCloud kind of shit goes by, again, I don't know how to factor in YouTube. I mean, we have episodes with as many as like 600 views, and I don't know where any of those people are coming from. But California is our number one,
Hollywood
state. It's
just the people who make these movies watching our reviews.
Yeah,
being
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
How many fingers?
Yeah. I don't know. There's somebody in California who's really, or just groups of people in like different, like San Jose and San Diego and all the Sands.
We should make a trip out to California and do How Many Fingers West.
I've literally Nick has literally pitched that idea. He's like, guys, if you ever come out, I can get you a place where you can do a live episode.
Comment on this episode if you would come watch us live in California. But yeah, let's talk about Murder on the Orient Express.
I've been saying that all week, and Sayri's like, you can't say that on the podcast. I was like, maybe they should have some more Orientals on the Orient Express. Maybe that.
Why is it called the Orient Express?
I really don't know. I mean,
because it's going from Istanbul to, obviously it can't go directly to London,
right,
but in the direction of London. That's going away from the Orient.
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
And it's not like they have like they have like the red kimono that shows up at one point, but it's not like there's anything on the train that's like, Eastern culture and whatnot. Like,
I mean, it's a real train, right? I think it is.
Either way, why is it called the Orient Express?
Leave an explanation or some sort of comment about how dumb we are.
Scold me for using
the comments below.
Oriental. You have notes for this, right? Yeah, so I do that.
I do.
IMDb users voted that this was the best description of this. When a murder occurs on the train he's traveling on, celebrated detective Hercule Poirot is recruited to solve the case. I still can't. It's said so many times in the movie, but it was like,
I honestly thought his name was Hercules the entire time.
Well, that was a joke.
There's a lot of Daisy Ridley.
Well, a lot of them keep making that. They keep saying like, "Oh, like your name's Hercules," and it's like Hercule. Like, so I guess the L is silent.
Yeah, I think it is Poirot. I don't know.
Poirot or.
I had to look up a lot of pronunciations, and I've already forgot all of them.
Imbibe.
YouTube and Google have some wonderful pronunciation tools. If you guys ever have to go on a podcast,
they have the data on what everyone's searching for. It's probably like a really top search on YouTube. How to pronounce that was I mean, that was a meme too, but people actually probably searching like how to pronounce Beyonce or how to pronounce some other.
You don't. Well, yeah. Even if you're not doing a podcast, you don't want that water cooler vernacular.
Oh,
to go wrong.
Bianca Knowles.
Oh boy. But Murder on the Orient Express was directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh?
Oh yeah, it was Branagh.
No, it was Branagh. We were joking about how it was
I said banana bread. Yeah.
This shit is bananas.
Who I honestly don't know a lot about, but he's. Do you know anything about him?
I remember him from the 90s and him being very into like Shakespeare.
That is definitely
and stuff.
Yeah. He's directed Henry V, Dead Again, Peter's Friends, Much Ado About Nothing, not the Joss Whedon one, but the 1993 one, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Midwinter's Tale, Hamlet. He's really running the gauntlet on these fucking Shakespeare.
He's a Shakespearean or whatever. Is he Shakespearean trained or just Shakespearean actor? People who that's a specialty to train in like iambic pentameter and understanding, what Shakespeare means when he says certain things around that time, and
definitely
he's studied in that way, I believe.
And loves Labor's Lost, As You Like It, The Magic Flute, Sleuth, Thor,
Yeah. That one always sticks out.
Macbeth, Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit.
He needs money now, apparently.
Cinderella, and of course, Murder on the Orient Express. I didn't know either that he is the main character in most of these. Like a lot of the Shakespearean things, he's directing himself, essentially, just like he is Hercule in this movie.
Did he do Midsummer Night's Dream?
I don't think so.
Did you read that one? Or was that Kevin Kline?
No, I mean, I
think Kevin Kline was in it. I feel like Kevin Kline was also, so I always confuse them because he was also like Shakespeare.
I don't remember just reading Midsummer Night's Dream. But no, I thought that was extra interesting that he's like playing all of these main characters really. Even when it comes to Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, he's like, yeah, I'm in it too. I'm the director and I want to, he's like Victor Cheverin. I don't know if that's like a main character. He's not in Thor. He's not in a few, and he's also in pre-production for the adaptation of Artemis Fowl, which I've never read, but I've saw a ton of people reading in middle school. So, Artemis Fowl, people.
He's a great actor, though. It's kind of funny that he has to direct all this stuff to be in it. Yeah, because he was fucking great in like Dunkirk. He was. Like, what is he? What is he else? Is he really getting? I guess he's so busy directing stuff, but.
I mean,
I would love for him to just put the directing chair down and go win a fucking Oscar.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think only a third of like the stuff he's acting in is him directing. So he goes out there and he does other stuff. But yeah, no, that's what I was about to say. It's weird to see him do like the commander role in Dunkirk and then do this this role. So he has some sort of range.
Having like an understanding of him beforehand, I was like not surprised at all. Fucking fly to find out that he was the one directing and starring in this movie. Just right. I mean, it's nowhere near Shakespeare, but it's a classic. It's old timey. It's like the dialogue is very verbose and almost belongs more on the stage than on screen for a lot of it.
It is. I'll definitely get into that when we get into our review. But it was written by Michael Green, who has Michael Green.
The screenplay was based on the Agatha Christie.
Right. Yeah, and Michael Green has at least worked on Green Lantern.
Michael Green Lantern.
Yes, Michael Green Lantern, Logan, Alien Covenant, and two of the Blade Runner 2049 and then 2 of the Blade Runner like short films. So he's been really busy this year.
Some of those are good movies.
Right. I mean, it's just like, I think he was just working on TV until when you were looking at like these IMDb credits, I just feel like people are just working on TV until they catch some sort of
2
break.
episodes of this show, 1 episode of this show.
Right. Yeah. We'll definitely get back to that. And
their passion project short films are always there in the beginning because they put them on IMDb.
Yeah. And
no hate, less than 3 will be on our IMDb if we ever.
Yeah.
It already is.
But yeah, just like you were saying, it's based on the 1934 novel of the same name by Agatha Christie. The film stars Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh.
That's a little Minions humor for y'all out there.
Check out a review of Despicable Me 3.
I thought I caught the fly. I didn't. He's so elusive. With Penelope Cruz, Willem Dafoe, Judi Dench, Johnny Depp, Josh Gad, Derek Jacobi, Leslie Odom Jr., Michelle Pfeiffer, and Daisy Ridley in supporting roles. The film is the 4th adaptation of Christie's novel, following a 1974 film, a 2001 TV film, and a 2010 episode of Agatha Christie's Poirot, or Poirot, whatever the fuck his last name is. But yeah, and I believe that's all of the information. There's really not a lot of information out there about this film, besides the obvious, pretty lengthy cast list. I never heard of, honestly, the originals going into this. I knew it was based off a novel, but I don't think I knew this was the 4th adaptation of said novel.
I definitely heard the name before, but I can't remember in what context. Like, no one's ever directly recommended to me, you should watch the original Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie that my parents ever showed me or had available to view, so I was not familiar with.
I know it had quite.
I knew it was a mystery, but
I think that one also had a pretty well-known cast for whatever the year was. Really, that's all I really know about it, even now. So excuse us for anything that we don't have knowledge of in the past film adaptations.
We're not reviewing that one. We're reviewing kind of
Branagh this one. Branagh.
Branagh.
Man. But literally, to talk bluntly about this movie, I was just kind of like, Mike, I feel like we should review this one. This is how many fingers. This is a little behind the scenes of how many fingers works. If there's a movie that we don't quite know what to say about it, or it's just generally boring, I think we'll always be like, let's put it last. We'll be really drunk and we'll just really say anything about it. We'll be more inspired. And Mike had the genius idea today of being like, well, why don't we do it first? I feel like that's a more intelligent way to go about this kind of thing.
So we'll have energy because so we're not at like 4 a.m. like, fuck, how do we talk about Murder on the Orient Express? Because
that happened to me with literally the last episode that came out. 3 episodes at this point, only the Brave, where I was just kind of like, I don't know really what to say about this at this point. Yeah. Also had a fucking headache from Voodoo Ranger's brother. Yeah.
Brother Ranger. But yeah, we had talked about how this is kind of a hard movie to talk about. Like the ones that we usually would end up putting like first are ones that like are easier to review because it's like you have such a strong opinion about them. Like, movies like Snowden or The Circle or Pirates of the Caribbean, like,
oh yeah,
they're easy to put first because you can just tear that shit apart like the entire time.
I literally feel like
or
we
like
did all of those movies you just said
movies
last.
are like that is true. We probably did put those, but they probably had.
But they were just like they were the I don't know. Yeah, go on.
There's also just like there's not a lot of like not a lot of production news around this. Like really the only like sort of meta thing to talk about with this is like Johnny Depp being in it, which we'll get into. Like why does he need to be in it? That will also lead into our discussion of the announcement of the new Fantastic Beasts movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald. The Crimes of Clark.
Rolls right off the tongue, really. Great title.
It's Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yep.
But it's a hard movie to talk about, and I guess we can sort of jump into it with this note of it. Like, it doesn't suck. It's not great either. It's like it's not like cheesy bad at all. Like you kind of have to respect. Like it's very clear that someone who has directed before, has been doing movies his entire life, was involved in this, and you can see moments of like, yeah, like I bet Kenneth was like really excited about this part. It just isn't really connecting with the audience at parts, and all of the parts of it aren't really coming together to make a good, cohesive, enjoyable experience.
It had a very strange marketing run too. Where even there was some description that I read, maybe it wasn't the IMDb description, maybe it was like the Rotten Tomatoes one, where it said it was like stylized or something, you know? And it looks like that in a lot of the trailers that we see, even in the poster I'm looking at with Johnny Depp front and center. Yeah, no. But
you would think the marketing would be like, just let people forget that he was in it.
Well,
it almost seems like it was edited to have him in it less.
Well, I mean, he's probably the biggest market draw. I don't know. I think he's
they're all names, but yeah, he's the one that would. But I don't know how much, like, who's really like, I need to see the new Johnny Depp movie. Like, I feel like
everybody who watched Pirates of the Caribbean.
I feel like even for them though, I feel like his name really got dragged through the mud. Like,
I don't know.
Like
I think he's the ringer for those movies, honestly.
I think his character, like, I think it's easy for that because it's like he played that character before we knew all that crap about him. We grew to love that character before we knew all that crap about him. So you could kind of excuse it or, ignore it as like, right. Oh, I'm going to see Jack Sparrow, not going to see Johnny Depp. I'm going to see that iconic role played again.
That's
Whereas
true.
like him playing a new role that like we don't really know yet, like that was kind of my feeling going into this, is like, why do I have to watch Johnny Depp? Like,
You're right.
Like, especially now, like it seems like a really bad time to have people who have horrifically abused women front and center in your movies.
Yeah.
Or in your movies at all. Like it's just not a good optic.
I don't know. I mean, we still have Bill Murray, like, all over the place.
But Bill Murray is someone who hasn't been really dragged through the mud. Like, he hasn't been taken to task like he should. We took Johnny Depp to task. We were like, Johnny Depp's a piece of shit. We had his crimes, like, proven through, like, text messages and, like, all over the tabloids. That was the top story for, like, weeks, was, like, the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, abuse and divorce and all the settlements and stuff about that.
It was of a time where we had receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was. I didn't think this movie. I went into this movie. It was not stylized. It kind of
did look good, minus the CGI. I could have done without the CGI, but
like
they did do some cool practical stuff. I really like the shot where he's entering the Orient Express and we're outside, but we're just seeing him walk through. It was kind of like a nice like obscuring of our view of it.
Right.
It was practical. It didn't look.
There was
from what I could tell, it wasn't digitally altered much at all, besides maybe some stabilization. But
there's some shots that linger way too long, like the overhead shot, the shot where it's like somebody's been murdered, and then we pan to each character, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
That part I did not like. Yeah.
Well, I hated that in the trailer, but I feel like they used a different cut of that shot in this movie that I wasn't as annoyed with. So I thought that was a little bit of an improvement. But I did think this was going to be a little stylized. I mean, I wasn't expecting the fucking Imagine Dragons song that they used in the trailer that made me want to...
Which one did they use?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not well versed in the Imagine
Dragons
Dragons discography. Yeah. But they even do stylistic audio stuff in the trailer where kind of like there's like a scream or something when somebody's murdered, like when the murder happens, that kind of like blends into like a synth or something. It's just kind of like, like it looked like it was going to be stylistic, and then I watched it and I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like the only thing that they really kept was like this kind of more modern color palette.
So you're saying it could have been stylized more? Like
I honestly don't know if I could have used that. Like, I don't know what direction they were going to go in, but at least like the color palette bugged me a little. Like it almost does follow those kind of like neons like throughout, like this kind of like more like neon blue.
Yeah, even literally the titles are like a neon blue on black.
Which is strange to see in a movie that's based in the 1930s to have more modern aesthetics in this 1930s film. I don't know. Did this film even really need to be made? It's like the biggest argument of this film.
That's like my ending argument for this is, why?
This,
Who was asking for this?
Nobody, really. It just, I mean, like you said, even before I really did some research into the director, I was watching this movie and I was just like, it just kind of looks like high school theater hour for like a bunch of big names. Like, you know, like it just like they're all embracing like some sort of...
I would have I think this would have been a really cool like play billing, because I don't think anything that was done like movie-wise, cinematic-wise, really added to the story as much as I didn't mind the visuals. I thought it looked good, but I didn't think that anything that was being done was really like, you know, when he's interrogating all the different people, it's not like we were getting, you know, like real looks at people, especially because, I mean, this is a point I'll make later, but his like interrogation techniques, they aren't like that crazy clever. He kind of just, he asks basic questions, but he's so intuitive that from those responses to basic questions, he pulls stuff. It's not like he's asking trick questions or using crazy, interesting techniques.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot like it's not like he's like a detective. You know, like I was really addicted to like Mindhunter for the past like couple of weeks, burning through that, and I really love the interrogation scenes in that because of the ways that they use like good cop, bad cop, or like relating to the victims to get them to open up. And they just use a lot of really interesting techniques that I could watch for like hours of just like, how do you get someone to admit or incriminate themselves, you know, without poisoning the testimony or whatever. Right. I thought that was all really interesting. But then in like this, he's just asking them basic questions, and it's not like he's tricking anyone to anything. And the stuff that he's pulling is not from their reactions to his questions. So we don't, like, us having like a close up on Josh Gad like crying when he's asking about like his lawyer dad, that's not giving us something that we couldn't have gotten from seeing Josh Gad on the stage performing that. And I know that the real reason obviously is money. It's, you make more money doing a movie than you do doing a Broadway play. But I also, like, I don't know why Kenneth Branagh cares about.
Well, it's kind of like
why did he?
Kenneth Branagh is bringing fucking everything to this screen. Apparently, I mean, like, I didn't realize he was bringing every single Shakespearean work to the silver screen. Really,
I mean, I can see why he would want to do it. I guess I'm more like, why were the studios like, yeah, we need to support.
Let's throw $55 million at this.
Unless it was like a favor for him doing Thor or something.
Right, yeah.
What did he do that the studios were like, let's put some money behind this?
Because the thing is, this movie starts out really... I mean, I don't know if you'll agree with this. This movie starts out very strong. In my opinion, like, I think this is like
I didn't like the beginning.
Oh, okay. I think this is... I was waiting for it to kind of fall into a formula that I'm used to, that works. What is that?
It's my doorbell.
Oh.
Someone's here. Hold on. We'll be right back. And we're back. Just had a strange experience because it was the first time I've ever heard my doorbell here at this new apartment.
That was a spooky doorbell.
It was very like... but
Yeah.
like bells rather than my drunk voice.
Did that come with the apartment, or?
Yeah, that was here.
Okay.
And it wasn't working for a while at first, but we also haven't really had visitors until recording now. That's really the only time anyone ever comes to my place of residence for these podcasts.
Oh, same. Yeah.
We were talking at the beginning. You liked it. I
Oh,
didn't.
yeah. No.
Started out strong.
It really it felt like a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of like intro. You know, it was in
an exotic location.
Yeah. Because it was like in Jerusalem. It was really like this microcosm of like what the detective does. Like he's the world's greatest detective, and they put out these 3 different like religious leaders who are all the suspects, and it's none of them. It's actually like the police chief, and he has like a guard by the one door he thinks is gonna run out, and then he puts like the cane there. It definitely stretches.
It's a little more action than the rest of the movie ends up actually having.
And I know, like from the critics that I've read, it's definitely been like, we didn't need this action, kind of. But I was kind of like, I liked that. I really enjoyed we needed that. We needed him. We needed some sort of showing of him being the world's best detective, if that's like what his title is, because we really kind of don't see that in a lot of this, in a lot of the film. We only hear him talking about it, really.
So you think I was kind of, I think I wanted more, not exposition. It's just a hard movie to be like thrown into the middle of, like in media res, like because it's like he's in Jerusalem. That's not where he really lives. He's a Belgian detective, but he lives in London. There's just like it's like, but he sounds French. It's hard to understand him, so I can't understand what he's saying. But he's solving crimes in like Jerusalem. Not everyone that's in the crimes that he's dealing with are actually Jewish or Hebrew or whatever you would have been in Jerusalem at that time.
Right. Yeah.
It seemed like it was more of like a colony type thing. Like I feel like a few of them were English.
Yeah, I'm not
the
sure.
police officers that he was dealing with. It was a whole lot of information being thrown at me, and I feel like I didn't catch up until he was like actually on the Orient Express. Yeah. Like I was like, who is this guy? Why is he French? Why does he live in London? Like I feel like it's stuff that maybe if you read the Poirot novels, it would make more sense, or if you had seen the original. It felt like they weren't really doing their due diligence to people who didn't understand,
and also
or weren't coming from this background.
I'll get into this later. The time that they spent doing this could have been better well spent with how this film ends and a decision that he needs to make at the end, because there's not really... They really bring up like this central theme at the end, but it hasn't been happening at all anywhere else in this film, really. Like it's just kind of like, okay, I guess, but really in the beginning of this, they kind of show the scenery with him being like, I need to have 2 eggs that are like precisely the same height and all this other stuff. And I was just kind of like, I don't need this. Like,
I did like that stuff after a while, like after I sort of settled into the movie, just because I think it makes him a very well-defined character, almost too well-defined. Like maybe they could have pulled back a little bit. But we clearly get the point that like he is someone who, and he even literally says as much, like I know what I like and I know what I don't like, and things need to be in a certain order. He's almost a little bit OCD about things even, and he's telling people like straighten your tie, or the eggs need to be the perfect height. It's not really about how they're done. It's about the size of the eggs next to each other.
I think we see that too much, and there are other threads we could have pulled at during this really fucking like precious like intro time, because then the rest of the time we spend on this fucking train, and I feel
there's certainly other things we could have explored. We could have had more exposition about the Armstrong case in general, because when that kind of like shows up, I remember feeling like it was almost unfair. Because I was like, I didn't have that information. Like when you're watching or reading anything that's like mystery or detective based, like you want to be able to process the information that the detective is finding as he finds it, and you want to kind of have the benefit of like, I've got the same knowledge he has. Maybe there's something I could pick up on before he realizes it in the novel, or at least at the same time. But with that, it's like, when he realizes that, what's the guy's name? Ratchet is Cassetti.
Right.
Like, that's not knowledge that we have, and they haven't even tried to do any. They might have had one line, because he does talk about other cases at one point, but it's like a throwaway quick line in dialogue. I would have liked maybe a little bit more, so that...
I don't know his connection to that case, really.
He said that the Armstrong guy sent him a letter, but it was too late. By the time he received it, the Armstrong guy had already taken his life out of grief. So he had been asked to investigate it, but there was not enough time because the guy died.
It's very Dear Stan, or Stan M&M's situation.
Wait a minute, come to think of it, that was you.
The tears gonna go down.
Dido.
Whatever happened to Dido?
What happened to Dido?
Huh? She had that.
Did
she
Dido?
Did she Dido? She had like that song, and she had another one. I don't know, and then she just completely disappeared. It's like those.
I think she was sampled by another rapper, and I can't remember who.
There's just like these European pop stars. They really come and go, and they're not as, I don't know, embarrassing as American pop stars at times. It's kind of like what happened to Kylie Minogue. She had a lot of like bangers in 2000, but
sorry, I'm searching up what has Dido been sampled in, because I know she was sampled in another rap song. It's not important. Continue.
So yeah, really, it's spread too thin, this movie. The characters especially, and I mean, there's something at the end where you are meant to feel sympathy, and I didn't, because I was like, I don't fucking, like, again, that case, like, I maybe that's a discussion for the end, but all of these characters, they're not who they say they are, so they don't really spend that much time developing these characters, and it's just, this movie's boring, really, is what it is. For the first time in a long time since I've got Movie Pass, I did like a double showing just because I had a busy week. So I saw this and Justice League yesterday.
Oof.
Yeah. I saw Justice League first, which was a mistake, because that's a little more high energy, and I was also very hungover. So there were points of this movie where even if I wasn't hungover, I think I had a very large coffee, and I was still like, maybe I can sneak a few minutes of sleep during the Orient Express. I didn't. I watched every grueling moment, but there was still like it drags, man. It drags at parts. Like I think that's what. Like, I had watched like the Pirates of the Caribbean movie that we watched this year. Like, I saw that during like a double viewing, and that was able to keep me awake just out of the pure special effects and really just like fun stuff happening. And this really wasn't that. This entire movie felt dated. It felt like in the early 2000s when they started doing kind of these period pieces where they didn't need sets, but they could just do it all on a green screen. Like, that's kind of like what this felt like. Or it felt like the, like, however many, like, Leagues Under the Sea or whatever. Like, that kind of movie. I don't know. Without the action. Again. It was just very, like, it had familiar...
It's like a novel that we're not really reading anymore.
Yeah.
It's a movie that's not really brought up in classic movie conversations anymore. And then we're remaking it again. And, like, I kind of almost wish they would have, like, done like a modern take on it.
Yeah.
Just because again, I think my biggest complaints with this movie have to be with like, I think the mystery itself is engaging, but I have a hard time keeping up. And I think a lot of that has to do with it being a period piece, not being able to understand Hercule Poirot or pronounce his name. So I'm just like, I feel like I'm not getting a lot of the information that I need to properly follow along with this mystery and like kind of make, there was never any point where I was like, oh, that's the killer. That's the killer. Cause I feel like I was playing catch up the entire time and trying to understand what I saw in the last scene. It's like really verbose dialogue too. Like, again, like I said, it felt like something that should have been better served by being on the stage just cause it's just dialogue. And it's not bad dialogue, but it's not terribly exciting to listen to. It doesn't like really catch your ears. And again, with his like accent, like there's a lot of times where I feel like he's making punchlines and I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know what you said. So I'm not laughing at what you're saying with these punchlines. I feel like it would have been more interesting to have it in a modern day setting. And then maybe I would understand, what like Barbasol is, a modern day equivalent of that. And, you know, some of these like references they're making that I don't fully understand, and they end up affecting my ability to follow and make predictions about the case. Because that's what mystery is about, is like, who done it, literally. And who do you think did it? I had no idea who did it because I didn't know who anyone was or what the relationship was to anything. And
yeah, a good mystery will kind of mislead you into thinking that a certain person did it, and at points I think they were trying to make that what's his name?
McQueen.
I don't know, who was McQueen?
Josh Gad.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But I really was like, well, I don't really completely understand this movie, really.
At times it was like everyone.
You said people are going to know who are listening to this, but you said something at this point that I started laughing at, where you're just kind of like, I think like the real mystery is. You said something along the lines of like, I think the real mystery is something. But I thought you were going to say, I think the real mystery is like, why was this movie made?
I mean, that is the real mystery.
Yeah, it is like.
And like the performances are pretty good, I think, from pretty much all the actors, even like Johnny Depp. But I feel like his role is so small. Not to keep going back to this, but I don't know why he had to be in this movie. Like, it's only a detractor at this point. Like, I really don't think there's that many like dedicated Johnny Depp fans that are like, especially like, it's not like this is some incredible character role that he's playing. Like, there's not a whole lot of makeup. It's really just Johnny Depp with an accent, and he's good. He's great. He's always been a great actor. But I don't know that this is something that's really going to pull in the Depp heads or whatever his fans are called.
IMDb has 2 different spellings of McQueen. We have like, one is Josh Gad as Hector McQueen, M-A-C Queen, and then his father is McQueen's father, which is spelled like Steve McQueen, like
MCQ.
Yeah, MCQ. So I just, there's such mystery around this movie.
How is it spelled?
The minute I saw it, is it just me? Is there something that just bugs you about fucking Josh Gad? Like, I know he was a part of, I would have loved to see like the original run of Book of Mormon or whatever. But there's something about him that just fucking bugs me. And
I think it's maybe some of the press tours he's been made to do. I know the Beauty and the Beast one bugged me.
Yes.
He's actually a big Disney nerd.
No, it's this kind of like, he's singing Disney karaoke with Jimmy Fallon. It's kind of like, or Jimmy Kimmel, or no, it was Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Kimmel was not doing Disney karaoke.
Jimmy Fallon's like, hey guys, why don't we sing karaoke? Like, shut the fuck up, Jizzy Fallon. Hey guys, I'm Jizzy Fallon.
How dare you, Joe? His mom just died.
I don't care. Most heartless Joe moments. That will be on that.
The YouTube cut of
Yes.
top 10 most heartless
Joe,
Joe from How Many Fingers moments.
You know, his mom's dead. I don't give a fuck.
I don't care.
I don't care about that.
Man means nothing to me.
Man's mother die. I don't think about it much.
Do nothing for him. I thought Kenneth Branagh was really good in this role, despite not being able to understand his accent. I don't think that's really his fault. It's just a tough accent.
There's
and a
also
very
something-
verbose dialogue.
I don't know if it was what the theater that I was in, which usually has like really great sound. I saw this and Justice League, and I was like, do both these movies have bad sound mixing? Because there are certain things, like there's certain dialogue where I was like, I'm not picking up on this.
There's a lot. I really wished I could have watched this with subtitles.
Uh-huh.
I've been watching so much like Netflix the past couple
But
of like weeks with subtitles on that like
it's not even accents though. It's sound mixing. It's purely like somebody's not like turning up their fucking voice. I think
there was a lot of like hushed tones, like even like Johnny Depp, who has just like a Brooklyn or whatever kind of accent.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like there was a lot of times where he was just talking very quiet. I feel like he pushed a lot of the actors to really like act this stuff out, and they did a good job, but they maybe did it too real, and maybe the sound guys weren't picking up on like, yeah, he's definitely talking like how a real guy would talk in hushed tones on a train car where he doesn't want everyone else to hear it. But I need to boost that volume a little bit, maybe get that lapel mic a little bit closer to his mouth if he's going to be talking like, I don't know, Italians and
yeah,
whatever,
no, definitely, which is very unlike. You know, he's been in film for such a long time. Maybe that's what he's going for. But, you know, again, where he's trying to not do the stage thing where it's like project to the back of the theater kind of, you know? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be one of those things where he's too close to the script and like he's not, you know, he knows what the people are saying. So he's not viewing it from the view of like, I have no idea what the script is, so I don't know what Johnny Depp is saying in these like mumbled tones, or Josh Gad when he like speeds talks for a little bit, or
that's literally
Kenneth Branagh underneath his mustache.
I mean, I'm sure
talking with an accent.
This is something that they do, I'm sure of, but maybe not. Just because I mean, I had some problems in Justice League where I was like, I don't quite know what that person just said, but they should have screenings for people where they have a checklist of every single line of dialogue. They should check off like kind of heard, definitely heard, and didn't hear, kind of like
at least the important lines. Yeah,
yeah. And they should run through that like a screen, like test screenings. Just because I've seen there's been a bad batch lately of just poor sound mixing, where it's just kind of like, why is the music fucking booming right now and the dialogue's like a whisper. I
did like Daisy Ridley a lot in this.
Yeah, she holds her own.
I read an article that was talking about how this was a really important movie for her because it was just kind of to prove like that she's not just going to be Rey from Star Wars for the rest of her life, like
right,
which she very well could be, because it's obviously the first like nationally prominent role she's been in, and she is almost better in this than she is in Star Wars. You know, Star Wars is such a very simple role, more physically demanding, but this like there's a little bit of nuance to it because you do kind of suspect her at a certain point, and then you kind of pull back and you at least know that there's something going on, and all the actors are pretty good in that way. I thought Josh Gad was really good despite my annoyance with his press circuit antics.
It was just like really when I first saw him, I was like, oh boy, we got another movie with this.
They didn't really
guy
show him in the trailer. I felt like because I was surprised to see he was in this movie.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I mean, it was just kind of I don't know. I don't know what I thought of Rey. Daisy Ridley in this movie.
She really can't break out of that role.
I mean,
that Willem Dafoe.
At least it's not like Pacific Rim Uprising. But
yeah.
does that trailer not like make you sad every time you see it in theaters? Like,
I haven't seen that in theaters. That trailer hasn't showed up for yet.
Whoa, already! Like that rap song.
The one that keeps showing up is the 50 Cent Gerard Butler trailer.
I have no idea what that is.
And Ice Cube's son. It's I can't remember the name of it. It's actually a really well cut trailer for what I predict is probably a shitty movie. Mm-hmm. It's like a bank heist movie, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna rob the Federal Reserve."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only like interesting aspect is they're pitting it as like kind of cops versus robbers, but the Gerard Butler is like a bad cop. His whole thing is like, you're not the bad guys, we're the bad guys. Like, I'm not going to arrest you, I'm just going to shoot you. But the trailer is really good. I can't remember what song is in it, but it's a really cool rap song, and the audio mixing is really great in that trailer because it's like bumping, and like even me who's like, that looks like a really dumb concept for a movie. They're going to rob the Federal Reserve, but I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to see this.
Dude, they have the dumbest fucking song in the Pacific Rim.
And they have the
Uprising.
Sabatka kid is.
Oh, okay.
Sabatka. Ziggy. Or no, Ziggy's the one that's on top of the.
Yes.
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
What is the other guy's name? Something Sabaka.
The normal one that's in. Yeah. No, I know. I was just rewatching Tangerine, and he's the pimp in it, which is like really. Or he's the boyfriend of the transgender.
Is he good?
Woman. Yes. That movie is very different from how I originally watched it. I'm sure we'll talk about it during the Florida Project. It's worth watching, if anything. It's like an hour and a half, even shorter. It's filmed on iPhones. It's really pleasant on the eye.
Is it?
No, it's not. It's really pleasant on the iPhone. I kept seeing this one trailer during my double viewing. I feel like I fucking saw it 3 times, like during 2 movies. It was just what's his name? Taken.
Liam Neeson, the
the fucking
commuter
train.
That looks so awful.
That looks so bad. It was just kind of like.
Can we sidebar a little bit about? I'm a little bit out of the loop because I haven't seen any of the Taken movies. But at what point do we decide that Liam Neeson's an action star?
I don't know, because that trailer really does a
like,
great job of highlighting why he shouldn't be.
He's an old man. Yeah, and he's like CGI jumping in the one scene.
Yeah. No, he like.
I mean, not that I really want him to jump in front of a moving train.
No, yeah, but there's definitely a scene where you're like, oh, he's jumping off the train onto the tracks, and then there's like a beat, and you're like, no, he jumped to another train. Like, it was just such a strange, like, they use that as like a weird, I don't know, transition, and it was just kind of like, all right, I'm watching a movie about a train. Why would I go see another movie about a train at this point?
Oh, before Murder.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, I saw it before both, but
I think I saw it before all 3 movies.
Wow.
Yeah, it was rough. And I didn't see the Star Wars trailer once.
Neither did I.
I saw it before a bunch from before Thor. It was there.
I was really glad that I didn't see. Or what's it called? I was getting annoyed when I saw like the Liam Neeson train movie trailer twice, and Kristen Wiig's like the woman who comes on. It's like, do you want to play a game? Like kind of like.
I haven't seen that trailer for the commuter.
Yeah,
I saw a different one.
Oh, she's the one who presents the idea.
No, that's Farrah Farmiga.
Is that?
That's not Kristen Wiig.
No. Okay,
that's my major crush, Farrah Farmiga.
Okay,
she's the one from The Departed and Bates Motel.
Yeah,
she's
dude. I could have sworn that was Kristen Wiig. Okay,
no, too attractive to be Kristen Wiig.
Oh no, definitely.
She's the big sister of Thaisa Farmiga, who's from all the American Horror Stories.
I was about to be like, man, is she in everything? Because she's also in. I mean, obviously Mother, and she's in
the downsizing trailer. I'm seeing all the time.
There's
now.
A new cut of the downsizing trailer where Kristen Wiig. It's exposed that she doesn't downsize.
It's a better trailer than the first one.
Oh man, like now there's stakes. It's a breakup analogy, really. It's it's kind of it's him finding life as a small person when his wife doesn't go. Like, because in the other trailer, it kind of shows him and his wedding ring shrunk or whatever. It was just kind of like.
I love the song in that trailer, but I hate it in that trailer. Hi, welcome to How Many Fingers reviewing all the trailers we've seen.
It's more interesting than this fucking movie, man.
That whenever that song comes on in that just in that context, it really annoys me. Like, I love that whatever that I don't know who sings that song. The
days go by. Yeah. They had that
in the trailer. It's so annoying.
Yeah. No, they've been trying to fit
and Matt Damon's face.
Yeah. Oh god. I just
Anyway, let's get back to Murder on the Orient Express. Like I was kind of saying with the I forget what point I was making about it before, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff that Poirot picks up on that we don't kind of have the previous knowledge to be able to pick up on. And it kind of makes the whole thing just kind of seem unfair or just unfun. Like it goes from, kind of like mysteries. They should be like kind of interactive. Like you're working along with the detective to, who do you think did it?
Right.
And when you don't have the prior knowledge that you should, or when they don't do exposition the right way, or when they don't, at least give you a chance to see something, even if it's a quick cut beforehand, then it's just kind of, you're just watching a smart guy be smart. And that's not really that interesting. And there's a lot of that in this, like his knowledge of the Armstrong case, which I also hated the way he connected that, because like when he draws out the words from the burnt thing, like he intentionally leaves space where he ends up filling in like the correct words, that fill it out. But it doesn't look like that when he's looking at it on. Yeah,
I don't like that either. Yeah,
I'm like, it just didn't. I didn't believe it at that point. I wasn't buying at that point. But that's a small thing. But like the big one that like really bugged me is when he's interviewing Willem Dafoe, and he like not only unveils that he is not a German because of the use of like Torrent. That's a fine clue, because that's, you might have known how Torrent is supposed to be spelled. Right. It was at least shown to us and presented to us. But then when he talks about, oh, well, your police gun, that's a police issue gun, so you were a cop at some point. Like, there's no way we would have known what a police issue gun was in the 1920s or whenever this is actually set. Right. And then we don't actually we see the gun, but we don't get to see the handle that he's talking about, like the checkered handle. So like that's just information that we don't have. So it's not really fun for him to be like, oh, I saw that, but you guys didn't. Like,
right.
Cool, good for you. You're a smart detective. Like that doesn't make for a good mystery movie to not be able to kind of follow along with it. Yeah. And then really like just the whole Armstrong case in particular.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even really know how to review this movie. This is like such like a bizarre, all over the place. It's just kind of like I thought it was going to be more of a let's interview everybody, and then there's new information presented, and that's the way that I'll approach everybody again. But it's really just kind of like these interviews are breaking up the scenes of the movie, and there's different things happening, and it is, again, it's unfair, the misinformation like really presented to the audience during this film. It's not a fun movie, really.
He makes a lot of like logic jumps too, that like I don't even think there's stuff that he sees that really justifies it. He just kind of takes a gamble and it pays off. And that's not really fun for us either. Like there's the one thing where Selma Hayek's character, where she's saying, or is it Penelope Cruz?
Penelope Cruz, yeah.
Oh, damn it.
It happens.
Faux pas. But she is talking at one point about how she like used to be a nurse, and she isn't anymore. And now she's kind of like a born again like Christian. She's devoted her life to God and all that stuff. She's always like scolding everyone. And then he at one point like makes the jump to be like, "You were the nurse for the Armstrongs."
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you don't actually have any proof of that. There was nothing. You just kind of were like, it's very like, it's an old mystery type like trope of like, oh, I did all this like, calculations in my, it felt like Encyclopedia Brown at points where like he does a lot of the thinking in his head, but we're not privy to what's going on in his thoughts. And he just kind of spells it all out. We don't actually solve the mystery until he says it all at the end.
But let's get into spoiler territory. Because what it ends up being is that the entire fucking train conspired against this man who knew that he was the killer of this little girl.
Daisy Armstrong, little baby.
Mm-hmm. And they're all connected to this family, and that's why they conspired together and made up all these false identities to all go on this train to murder him in revenge. And I don't really know what happened. Like, when he solves this, like, this mystery, kind of, and he has them all lined up or whatever, and I thought one of the most powerful scenes was he was like, all right, well, you're going to have to shoot me because I'm going to take this to the authorities because I've solved the case and all of you took part in murdering this fucking man. Like, it doesn't matter what he did. Like, all human lives are, equally valuable no matter what they're, And then it kind of just turns into this other thing where there's guilt and there's yada yada, and maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I partially fell asleep, but then he gets off the train and goes to solve like a new mystery at the end. And I was just kind of like...
There is kind of a weird jump there where like he says, you'll have to shoot me, but I couldn't tell if that was a tactic he was using to further... Because he hands them the gun.
And it's not loaded. Right?
She tries to shoot him. And I don't know if he didn't know that it was empty.
Well, she tries to blow her brains out first.
You're right. Sorry.
And we discover the gun's not loaded.
So did he know that it wasn't?
I have no idea.
That it was empty? Because there was the little firefight that happens before that.
Yeah.
With the doctor shooting at him.
I really don't...
Either he didn't know it was loaded, and then he's really upset of himself for making that decision, or he did know it was loaded, and then I don't know what he's trying to prove. Like,
this is why I think the first scene, as much as I enjoyed it, he should have run into some sort of small microcosm of, I don't know, good and evil, or something where that hits him with a hard-hitting question, and he doesn't know how quite to do it, or he takes the side of just like justice is justice and we need to lay down consequences for somebody who was doing wrong, kind of, because then at the end it's kind of like, I've solved this mystery and I have all these people who did something bad again to combat something bad that had happened recently or that had happened previously, kind of, and he ends up taking their side. And I don't even really, again, there's such a jump.
I get him at that conclusion. I don't get him getting to that conclusion. Because the only scene in between, like, he walks away after the whole, like, pistol scene, and then he's kind of contemplative on the train, and the Penelope Cruz character comes up to him, which felt weird because they had the least connections. I don't know why she came up to talk to him. I don't know. She just needed more scenes in her contract. But she comes up and I can't even remember their exchange, but it felt meaningless.
Yeah.
Whatever words they were using didn't really, felt like they had a whole lot of, they weren't really reverberating with me.
Yeah.
Nothing stuck. I didn't really think that I had to take any weight from that conversation. And then they just move on, and immediately he's getting off the train and he kind of gives his speech of like, I have to learn to live with the imbalance. And like, I like that. I like the way that kind of ties back to earlier in the film. He had like stepped in the shit, and he's like, it's not the shit, it's the imbalance. And then he puts his other foot in it. Like, I like those little character quirks. I like, bookending the movie that way. I just don't like that they defined his character so well to the point where I understood when he was like, you're gonna have to fucking shoot me because right is right, wrong is wrong. Everything has its direct place in this universe, and that's how I make sense of everything. And you guys killed someone. That's wrong. There's no gray area here. So you guys have to kill me if you guys want to get away with this. I need more change. I need to understand how he could kind of go against everything that is the fiber of his being, you know?
Because
we've been made to understand this character so well. They do a really good job of establishing him. And then they're just kind of like, oh, he's going to do something that's completely against his character.
I mean, beyond this movie, really, it's just kind of like, it's the fucking movie's called Murder on the Orient Express. There's a detective on board, and we solve who the murderer is, and the audience doesn't get the satisfaction of somebody fucking being held accountable for like the loss of a human life, kind of. It's kind of like, you know, like sometimes the important movies like fucking Baby Driver even is able to grasp, like, hey, this is a good person who did something bad and they need to suffer the consequences of this, even though they're the protagonist and they did something right, kind of. And it's just like nobody suffers any consequences. It's just like fucking murder mystery where nobody
the justice is served in the first 15 minutes of the movie. Yeah. I feel like that solution to the mystery is like also in and of itself unfair, because it just kind of feels like in the terms of like a murder mystery, like they changed the rules of a game. Like I didn't know that all 12 of them was an option. Like, you know, like usually like the resolution is like, oh, it's the one you least suspected,
right,
or the one you most suspected, but then in the middle you were made to believe that it was the person you least suspected. And then we flip. It's some kind of combination of that.
Didn't feel
or
clever.
even like two people, it would have been kind of like I thought that was the twist when it was like he thought it was Daisy Ridley, who's the person you least expect.
But it was
also the doctor
yes.
who you also least suspected. And like I thought that was the twist. And then Dakota, like every single one of them did it. I not only didn't believe that any of them were capable of murder, because they did a good job in that respect of like making all of them, they all had an alibi, or a motive rather, of some kind, but you didn't believe that they were capable of it, or that they had, you know, the ability to do it. You know, something could rule all of them out. Like, because he interviewed all of them, and in every single interview there was something that was like, well, he couldn't have done it because of this, but he might have done it because of this, you know?
Right.
And that was also weird because he kept finding all these connections to the Armstrong case and all of them, and I feel like he wasn't as suspicious of that as I was. Like, I kept being like, they're on this train from Istanbul to London, or wherever you need to go to connect to London from on land from Istanbul.
Right.
All these people are somehow connected to a family that lived in New Jersey.
Yeah.
In America, and like they're all happen to be on this same train at the same time. Like I feel like he never kind of put that together of like, like he should have been thinking multiple people earlier. Maybe not all of them, but he should have been like, there's 5 people here that knew Daisy Armstrong or the Armstrong family or had some kind of connection to them, and they're all on this train.
Right.
And the person who murdered his daughter is dead. Like, I don't think he was as suspicious of that as early on as he needed to be. I was kind of attributing it to like, well, that's just kind of, it's the coincidence that needs to happen for these type of murder mysteries to play out. Like, you know, like if you're going to write a story like that in like the 1930s, like there are going to be some stretches of logic so that we can have this kind of fun game of a book or a movie to play along with of, you know, who could have done it. They need to make us believe that everyone could have possibly done it. And when the murder is about this murder that happened in New Jersey, you've got to make all these weird stretches of logic for everyone to be on this train. But it's not necessarily believable. And obviously it's the reasons they are there, not the reasons, the real reasons in the end. But I don't know.
It's just
super weird.
Fucking bizarre. It's just such a stretch that you're just kind of like, this wasn't clever. I don't know. And I don't know if like the novel or any of the other adaptations were just kind of like this. It could have been more.
I was really
clever.
curious to know if this was the ending from the novel or the film adaptation, and that kind of ties into the question of why was this movie made? Because I feel like I don't think anyone that didn't watch the original movie or read the original novel was like, man, I really got to see Murder on the Orient Express, you know?
Dude,
and if they didn't, then they're fans of the originals. And then what is the point of this movie? Like, the ending, it is fun. In the end, like, I'm kind of like, you got me. I didn't see that coming at all. You know, it wasn't something totally predictable.
How boring must this movie be if you saw the
if you
ending
see,
coming?
yeah, if you don't have the you know the joy of kind of being surprised in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I kept thinking to Happy Death Day as much as I hated that movie, just because I thought the twist in that movie was good because I was able to pick up on it.
Yes. But
also still sort of be surprised by it.
Yes. That's how movies are supposed to work.
Like, they were showing you stuff that would allow you to have suspicions if you were keen enough or if you're paying attention at the right times.
Right.
They didn't make you feel like a fool because the clues that you're supposed to pick up on were off screen or in someone's mind or in knowledge that you could not possibly have here in 2017. You know, about the model of police pistols that were issued prior to 1930. Like, that from a pistol that we're not even allowed to see in this movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just don't know why this movie was made. I mean, it made 27, 29, somewhere around that in the opening weekend. So, I mean, people saw it. But I also attribute that to what else was out. Thor and Daddy's Home. And then, like, Bad Moms Christmas and Tyler Perry's Medea Halloween is, like, still making some money.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point we weren't going to review this movie because Daddy's Home 2 beat it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, we'll see, but I would have rather watched Daddy's Home 2 twice than fucking watch this movie again.
I don't know about that. But.
Yeah, I know you'll probably have different opinions from that. As you found out last week. But yeah, no, I was like trying to make myself sleep during this movie. I was
you couldn't.
So bored. I really didn't know why this movie needed to be made. Some of the performances were good.
I thought they were all pretty good. That's one of, like, the redeeming factors is that I think with what they were given.
Well, I think at the beginning when we're all being introduced and in the middle it really drags. It just kind of looks like we're playing high school theater in like
playing like a murder mystery party game. That was in my mind the entire time. Was like it's people at like an office party playing like, oh, I'll be Hercule Poirot and I'll be Ratchet and I'll be whoever. Like, the characters were just so different and so well defined that it was like too much.
It's like a what's the party that they have like after like a play like in high school, like a what is that referred to as?
There is a name for it. Cast party?
Yeah.
It's like a cast party game.
It's like a cast party where you just have like your opening night and then like you get to the cast party host house and it's like, it's a murder mystery like party where we all have to continue acting and like everyone's just tired and they're like, I thought we were just going to drink. Who was murdered here? Like, it's just kind of like, that's what this movie was to me, which is kind of like just this fucking tired, like, okay, what? Well, let's get into some fingers.
Yeah, let's do so. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 58% based on 177 reviews with an average rating of 6.1 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, stylish production and an all-star ensemble keep this Murder on the Orient Express from running off the rails, even if it never quite builds up to its classic predecessor's illustrious head of steam. I really love whoever writes the Rotten Tomatoes consensus.
Yeah, they're better than those IMDb descriptions.
They're very, very good. I don't have a whole lot to say. I'll go first if you want.
I don't have a whole lot to say either.
I didn't hate it. Okay. I was not bored at all. I think it looked good, or at least not boring and dull. You know, I was visually stimulated, even if I didn't need to be. And maybe if we could have spent more time focusing on some of the things we needed to see more.
Right.
And I thought it was well acted. I really liked pretty much everyone's performance. You know, there were some people that maybe didn't stand out as much as the others, but I didn't think there was any, you know, stinkers or performances at all. And maybe would have not have liked Johnny Depp to be in the movie, but if he is going to be in it, he was pretty good, as he always is. And I didn't know the ending, so I was at least able to get the joy of the twist of the ending, even if it felt a little unfair. But I was definitely bored at some times, especially in the middle. It felt like it was just kind of like, okay, we've been interviewing people forever, and these aren't even interesting interrogations. It's just, I'm going to ask you questions, and stuff is going to come out. Like, it's not like he's, you know, employing any real techniques for real police work. He's just asking questions and being a smart dude. Yeah. And that's not as interesting for us to watch. And I wanted it to move maybe a little bit quicker. It drags a little bit and make more sense. So I'm going to give it 2.5 fingers.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. It wasn't great. It's about as down the middle, I feel like, as you can get.
Definitely. There's
some good parts about it. And I almost wish it were a worse movie because it'd be easier to review if it was like a cheesy bad movie. But there's no like scenes that I was like laughing at the movie rather than laughing with it, you know. Usually laughing, you know, with the punchlines of this movie or invested where I was supposed to be invested. It just felt like it didn't really all come together like he wanted it to come together. Like there's definitely an art to what he was trying to do. You could tell that he cared. I don't think this was like a, you know, throwaway project for him at all.
Right.
Maybe he was too invested in the acting and not as invested in the directing of it. But it didn't seem like it was poorly directed. It just seemed like a bad idea to make from the get-go. And it just didn't, something didn't work. It was not pulling together the way it should have, all these sort of parts. And it's not an easily marketable movie either. Not a whole lot of appeal. So 2.5 fingers. Not the worst, not the best.
Yeah. No, I don't even really have as long as a final statement. Again, as I said before, I was kind of looking forward to this movie in the beginning. I liked this kind of like this small microcosm of how he is the best detective in the world, and I really liked. I didn't fucking see how he was the best detective in the world, like at any point during the Orient mystery, kind of.
He didn't use the techniques that he used to figure out the first one. Like, you know, something doesn't seem right here.
Yeah.
It was all just like stuff that he happened to know already. It wasn't observation. He was prior like, knowledge.
Honestly, you could have swapped, like, after the first mystery, like, you could have cut that first mystery out, and you could have just played this movie as is, and it could have just been a guy on his first mystery that he was solving, kind of. And it would have made complete sense. It was just kind of like, oh, he's a natural, kind of. Instead of, he's supposedly the best fucking detective in the whole world.
They did try to express. I mean, I don't think this is the first Hercule Poirot novel that she did.
Right.
I guess it was just the one that became the most famous. And they did express in the one scene where he's weirdly talking to the portrait that dragged on way too long.
Yes.
Which was like, oh, dude, just make it a play. Like, this is this is a great play scene, but I don't need to see this in a movie in this like single shot of you talking to the portrait of your dead wife. But when he's talking about like my dear Catherine, he does in that scene express like, I just don't get it. Like, this isn't like all the other cases I've done before. But that doesn't really work when this is the first of the modern, you know, Poirot movies. But had we had other Poirot movies, then the stakes might have been like, oh man, he usually figures this stuff out right away.
Ironically though, the first mystery that he solves in this film is that he's hired by the person who committed the crime. So it's kind of like, how does he fucking not know that, you know, like it was just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe we see the process. It was just
in Jerusalem, you mean? Or
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He's hired by the police chief to solve the crime.
I thought you were talking about the train, and I was like,
No. And I don't know. I love this first scene so much. It plays out really well. It's very Pirates of the Caribbean-esque, even though I don't like those movies. I was ready to be invested in that kind of behavior. I love he goes to Istanbul and he's enjoying like the fucking bread and he runs into the the director of the Orient Express and he's with a prostitute and it's just
I did really like the director's character. We didn't talk about him as well. I wish he was in the movie more.
It's just
that kind of like unashamed
It's
scumbag was like really fun to watch.
It's funny and it's light, and then like by the end it tries to become heavy, and I was just like, no, there is such like a huge disconnect. It's like two wires. It's like a wire that's been cut in half, and like the threads are like 2 hours apart. It was just kind of like, and one's like, this is a serious movie, and one's like, this is a lighthearted, like, just kind of Captain Jack Sparrow movie, kind of, you know? And it's just like, and then in between, it's just kind of like electricity that's just trying to reach the other end, kind of. And it's frustrating because, again, like I was saying at the beginning of this review, the end of this film tries to evoke an emotion of kind of like a little girl was killed. And it was just kind of like, too little, too late, man. I don't fucking care about that little girl.
At the end. The soundtrack is like trying to pull all the weight at that point. I was
like, I don't fucking care about that little girl, man.
You haven't even shown us a picture of the little girl.
I've been trying to sleep in this fucking movie. No,
just let me sleep.
Even if I'm awake and I'm the most alert person during this movie, I don't fucking care about that little girl. I don't care about this guy or this woman.
That's number 2 on the cut of Joe's least sensitive moments.
I don't care.
I don't care about Jimmy Fallon's mom. I don't care about this.
But it's literally like all these exposition shots that are like specifically in black and white. Like they're just so old. It's just kind of like, I guess whatever. Like like I can.
The black and white was honestly a really bad choice because, like you're saying, it made us not care about it because we're like, oh, that's not of this time or even of this storyline. Like
it's not of this color palette that they're using for this 1930s movie, because we have this very modern color palette, and then when we have exposition, it's black and white. That doesn't fucking make sense.
Doesn't help. No,
it's fucking stupid, and it's why it should have been a play, because like maybe they dim the lights and they act out like something else on the stage or something.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, I guess, I don't know. I was not a fan of this movie. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't looking forward to this movie. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I'm gonna give this movie one finger because it was kind of Pirates of the like I wish it was more Pirates of the Caribbean, but it ended up just being the same score as like the Pirates of the Caribbean this year. Just because I was like, during that movie, I was just like, I don't care.
I think the difference is that I feel like people did try for this movie. Like I didn't feel like anyone was dialing it in. I feel like the people involved in this honestly thought they were signing on for something great, worked towards something great in the editing room or post-production decisions or both, and a little bit of the screenwriting and pre-production for this. It started to come apart, and then it just doesn't really fully come together at any point.
I feel like
I would definitely give it a lower score if I wasn't so impressed with a lot of the performances in this movie, where I felt like every single person was really pulling their weight. There wasn't any like weak links.
And this is something that I meant to say during my final thoughts, which I thought was going to be shorter, but I made it a little longer, is that in the first scene, we really see the skeleton of what they were trying to do. And we see all these modern movies or all these modern sort of detective films that are these period pieces, like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock, and I guess the other Sherlock that's on BBC is modern, but they always use these kind of like zoom into something where it's kind of like, oh, this is going to have some sort of effect, and they kind of hint that something like that is going to happen in the first scene. Like the cane like shoved into the thing, or like, hey, I'm gonna need somebody over there. It's kind of like he's feeling it all out before it's happening, and I was really kind of looking forward to something like that.
He did have a lot
too.
of like prescience in that
Yes.
first scene, and that doesn't show up later. You know, like kind of like how Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies has kind of like this blind luck where he just happens to fall in the right spot where the window is gonna land around him, or he's gonna happen to jump into the boat that he drunkenly stumbled out of or whatever. And in this, you maybe wanted more on the train of him being seal that door, blah, blah, just being. There was not a lot of him really seeming that smart on the train. I know part of that again is the fact that it's like the third or fourth novel in the series. It was supposed to be this story about him being stumped by this kind of, because like us not being able to predict, why would it be all 12 people? Why would he as the detective be like, it's all 12 people that committed this murder at the same time?
But I feel like Me and the Rest of America gets into, like, even when I didn't want to see Benedict Cumberbatch like be Sherlock, I was kind of like, man, like him chewing on the pencil does make him like want to have sex with his mother. Like, like that is kind of like some like weird fucking like psychological clue kind of. And in
As someone who hasn't seen, I'm so confused.
that's purely fictional, meant to be comedic.
Oh, okay.
The BBC Sherlock is actually really good. I've only seen the pilot. I haven't been inspired to see the rest. I'm not huge on detective.
It's really good. I didn't want to watch the rest.
No. I mean, I'm really not big on detective shit, but like, it all logically falls into place. Just kind of like the what's his name, Iron Man,
Robert Downey Jr.
Iron Man, Sherlock Holmes.
Sorry, you were right the first time.
Mike, I think you meant Iron Man. Wait, no, I think you meant Tony Stark is playing. He really is, honestly, though. They're like two peas from a pod. No, but like, it fucking makes sense. This movie doesn't make sense. And that's where I'll leave it at.
So the 1, the 2.5, that'll come to 1.75, rounding down to 1.5 fingers as our official rating from How Many Fingers a Podcast. We've got a cute boy waiting in the wings to review.
Who's that boy?
The episode from 2 weeks ago. Now,
yes.
So let's wrap up and get out of here. If you agree or disagree with our thoughts on Murder on the Orient Express, if you even saw it, leave a comment below on SoundCloud, YouTube, or Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're reading or listening to. If you're reading this episode,
Are you
listening or watching.
Are you like
this episode.
Adnan in jail, who's like, no, Koenig, send me the transcript. Well, Adnan, cereal's really not meant to be read. It's really a masterpiece of just sound mixing and everything. No, Koenig,
I want to read it.
I want to. We can send it to your fucking stupid Xbox that you have in jail. Can listen to MP3 files. Jail doesn't sound that bad. Go on.
We're on Snapchat at HMF Podcast. Follow us. There'll be some shenanigans from tonight. Well, you won't be able to watch them because it's Snapchat, but from the next time we record, and whenever we post a new episode, you'll get a snap from that on your story. Subscribe to our YouTube. You can find a link at our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. As we've been saying for the past couple of episodes, just find one of our playlists, put that buddy on play, put it on loop, mute the volume, and just let that play in the background. We're trying to get back to 10,000 views. Then you never have to watch another video again, but at least we'll be back to the Big Boy Club on YouTube with all the features that enables. Pretty much everything else you can find howmanyfingerspodcast.com. You can find a link to our iTunes where you can rate us, subscribe us, review us. A link to our mailing list on MailChimp. Subscribe to that. You'll get emails every time we do something cool and new and when a new episode comes out. Excuse me, gassy from all this beer. And
How's the mind?
Find a link to our merch store, howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com. Koozies, t-shirts, stickers, all three in a package deal for $11.99. And as always, a link to our Amazon link and our iTunes link. Click on either. Anything you purchase within 24 hours within each respective browser window, we'll get a nice little cut of super easy way to support the podcast without going too far out of your way. And that'll do it for this week. Signing out for How Many Fingers a Podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Kenneth Branagh.
Banana bread.